Okay, so now let's start the testing. And what will I do is that I will open this workstation data, and I have this bay ID D26267. Let's use this bay ID. But before that, I'll pass a bay ID which is not available. Now, before starting that, let me show you that there are no records in production log and no records in assembly line. 127.0.0.1 and port number is 10,000 and the API is get WS. Sorry, the API is create assembly line, my bad, and the method is get. So I'll pass get method and create assembly line is the endpoint, and I'll have to pass bay ID and let's say BBB, and should not get any bay ID. Let's see whether it errors out or not. This looks like it does. It's a key error. I'll have to pass product name also, it seems. Okay, so there is a product name. The purpose of product name was to insert to the product table, but I'm not doing that. You can go ahead and do that. So let's say the product name is equal to BMW X1. Now let's send it. And it says workstation not found, try another bay ID, and workstation ID is error. Now let me use a proper bay ID which is D342. I've got the bay ID from the file workstation_data.csv, and you can select a bay ID from here also. The last one is bay ID. You can select the bay ID from the file itself, and let's try it out. Okay, it looks like it worked. So the end time is 9999, which is correct. End WS ID is not yet assigned. Line ID is 22032. Log ID is this one. Product ID is this. Product name is BMW X1. The start time and the start WS ID is this one. And I think it is a good time to check the results. First, there should be one record in the assembly line table, another record in the production log table, and this workstation ID is available flag should be N for this workstation ID. Okay, so let's see assembly line. Looks like there is a record that have been created, and same is the case with production log also. A record has been created. So this is the workstation ID, this is the worker ID, and in the machine ID looks like that I did not capture the output. So let's go ahead and check this out. Okay, while inserting, I'm inserting the machine ID, not the MC ID. Let me change it, and I will delete both the records. Now production log is empty again, so is assembly line. Now let's send the record. Okay, I got a different workstation ID this time. See, the line ID is different, the product ID is different, so is the log ID, but the product name is BMW X1. Okay, let's select from production log. It says that the product ID is this one, the workstation ID is this one, worker ID is this one, and this time I'm getting the machine ID. And if I select assembly line, select records from assembly line, this is the assembly line ID. The product ID is 759214748, which is correct. Product name is BMW X1. The start WS ID is 151474, which is also correct. The current workstation ID is this one because I have just started. When you create the API, update assembly line or check assembly line, you'll have to change this workstation ID. And then the end workstation ID has not yet been assigned, which is correct, and the status is started. Now what will I do? Let's take a look at this particular worker ID, whether the flag has been made available or not. As you can see, there is available flag is N here, so it worked. Let's look at the machine table. So the WS ID is null. I'm not sure why it is null. There should have been a WS ID, but is available flag is N, which is correct, but there is no WS ID. The WS ID should have been updated with this one. So you might have to fix this one also. And finally, let's look at the workstation ID information from the workstation table. Sorry, I forgot the column name. The column name is WS ID, my bad. And as you can see, the next WS ID is this one. It has been made unavailable and this workstation ID is currently in the works. Alright, so the create assembly line worked. Let's create one more, and now it would be, the product name would be, let's say BMW X3 or maybe X1 because that is in demand. Okay, so this also worked, and there should be 2 rows in assembly line table and 2 rows in the production log table also, which is actually the case. Now let's try this B113 again. Okay, seems like no worker found. Please try a different workstation. The reason is, I think there was only one worker for this particular workstation. Let's try to find that out. So let's see the worker ID for this workstation. Okay, it says no worker found, but there is a worker available. So looks like there is some problem with the implementation. So I'll have to fix this, why it is happening. Please go ahead and fix this one by debugging the code. So you already have a lot of exercise for the existing code itself. Now let me add a few more exercises along with the fixes that you have to implement in the existing code. There are 2 more components of the basic assembly line that I have just discussed that we have not implemented, and this would be part of an exercise. So you'll have to implement these 2 APIs as your exercise. The first one would be that instead of updating the production log directly from create assembly line API, we'll create a new function or a new API called create production log or update production log, whatever you might want to name it. And the create assembly line API would call this create production log API, which will update the production log table. So create assembly line will not update any database or any database table for that matter. This is the first exercise that you have to do. In the second part, you'll have to create one more API which will check the progress of the assembly line, and it will use the update workstation, update worker and update machine APIs, which I have already created, to update the workstation, update the worker and update the machine, and eventually update the production log. And updation of production log should not be done by check assembly line API or check assembly line code. It should be done by the create production log or update production log API. In production, what would happen is that all these updates would come from a device. Whenever there's a job done in the assembly line or in the workstation, a device would be used to update that job or update that work. Here we'll be using Postman, but in real life scenario, an actual device would be used which will call this check assembly line API or update assembly line API to update the status of the work and update the production log also. The third part of the exercise would be to create the final API, which is complete assembly line. And what it would do, it would make sure that the workstations are made available, the workers are made available, the machines are made available, and once that is done, it would create a production log that the job is done or the workstation ID work is done. So these are the exercises that you have to perform.